Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. A results roundup video covering 4 different fights on 2 separate cards, one in the UK which involved Huey Fury, and then 3 fights in Germany involving Hussein Muhamed, Jose Larduet and Mourad Aliev. That was a Universum card. But we'll start in the UK with Huey Fury. So he's on the comeback trail after a couple of years out. Illness, long COVID, all that sort of stuff. Hadn't been in the ring for a couple of years until a fight just a couple of weeks ago against Konstantin Dobyshenko, when all the rounds got some good activity, started to get rid of a little bit of rust, and he was announced in this fight against Patrick Korte on a boxer card at short notice, a week's notice in fact, and he's gone in there and got him out inside a couple of rounds. And I said in a video just a week ago when this was confirmed, Patrick Korte would be stiff, upright, there for the taking, and Huey Fury would get something that he doesn't often get, a knockout, a stoppage, and that's exactly what happened. So the first round, nothing really too much to write home about. Patrick Korte coming forward, the earmuffs on, very basic, letting his hands go, not having really any success. Huey Fury just sort of staying out of the way, a few shots, an uppercut here and there, right hand, all that sort of thing, but just having a bit of a look. Second round started to turn things up a bit, and Korte caught a big right hand, and you can see here this is just moments after it impacted, and yeah, basically he was stunned by that. Huey Fury lands another right hand, and Korte doesn't really know where he is, discombobulated, not to the point where I thought it was going to get stopped, but obviously he was basically ready and ripe for the picking, and it was only going to take a few more shots. But at this point the referee jumps in mercifully for Korte, and the stoppage for Huey Fury is given. So another 2 rounds of action, and I said ahead of this fight it was what it was, a tune-up. So Huey Fury was always going to beat Patrick Korte, and because the record is padded and Patrick Korte is pretty much terrible, very basic, very beatable, and not on the same level as Fury, this was always going to be Huey Fury's fight, and a win and a victory and another notch on his belt. So after the fight, so you can see here with Ben Shalom and also his father and trainer Peter Fury, because they were trying to ask him what's next, who are you going to be fighting, who do you want to call out. Both him and Peter Fury didn't really sort of get drawn on that in the post-fight interview, but Huey Fury said that he played with him in round 1, that's Korte, not with himself, that he needed the activity. He was asked about the little scratch that he did get in round 1 over the left eye, and he said it was nothing, it would only take a couple of days to heal, but he needs activity, he needs to stay busy. And when he was asked, who do you want to fight, he sort of said, look, I'm where the big fights can happen. Not sure that's really true at this point, because Huey Fury is very much on the outside looking in. He hasn't been active. He hasn't really got a form guide to sort of say, look, I should be in this fight with this guy. He hasn't fought anyone of note yet to sort of put himself back in the shop window for a big fight. So I guess a bit of a question mark on what next for Huey Fury. But his trainer was and father, Peter Fury, was effectively asked the same thing. Should he be in with these big fights and these big guys? And he basically said, look, if he's not able to contend, for a heavyweight world title, he might as well pack it in. So Fury, Peter Fury, that is, still believes in his son and the talent, and that he can do something in the heavyweight division. But he said there's a lot to work on, and he just has to keep him busy. So I expect, as they've previously stated, there could be another couple of warm-up fights this year that keep expectations in check. Don't expect him to be thrown straight in with someone, a big name. But then again, it's Huey Fury. He kind of has yo-yoed between big fights and then pretty much mediocrity fights below his level. The interview and the post-fight was trying to sort of gauge, should he go back to sort of a British level or European, and, where did they sort of see him fitting in right now? But they wouldn't really be drawn on that, apart from saying that Huey Fury does have the talent to eventually win a heavyweight world title. So I guess we'll see what happens with Huey Fury next. Hard to draw much from this because Patrick Korte just not very good. Moving on to the card in Germany, the Universum card, and we'll start first with what was Comedy Gold, and I'll leave a link in the description to this card, so you can go watch the 3 different heavyweight fights. They're scattered throughout the card, but the first one up was Jose Larduet versus Luis Jose Marin Garcia, and Marin Garcia, the number something, almost 300 in the world, he wasn't very good. It looked like, actually, if him and Patrick Korte had a fight, you would kind of go, these guys have just taken up boxing and they're involved in some sort of, pseudo street fight, just by the way that they throw in the technique and everything. He was aggressive in round 1, coming out, looping punches, looked stiff. He just, very, very basic. Jose Larduet didn't really have too much to worry about, because most of what was coming from Marin Garcia was very telegraphed. Sometimes through this fight, which went 4 rounds, Larduet was able to just sort of take a step back and Marin Garcia would be wildly off balance after missing punches. But the feature of the fight was Marin Garcia just couldn't keep his mouth guard in his mouth. And it wasn't, because the replays between rounds, they'd go back to it. It wasn't like he was just sort of spitting it out because he didn't want to be there. Just couldn't keep it in his mouth. So throughout the fight, 6 times the mouthguard came out and caused a stoppage, and I think it was 3 times alone within, round 3. Eventually, he did have a point taken after the 6th time that it came out. So it sort of seemed like a big portion of the fight was waiting for the mouthguard to get rinsed and then put back in his mouth. But round 3 was where Larduet really started to, unload on Marin Garcia and, sort of step in and really sort of put the hurt on. He wasn't holding back, and you could see Marin Garcia didn't like it. He was definitely second best on everything throughout this fight, but as soon as Larduet started to put his foot down, put the foot on the throat as it were, Marin Garcia didn't like it. And he did take a knee after a body shot, and he claimed it was low, but he was given a count. And there was another instance, I think, in the 4th round, where a body shot came in, and then Marin Garcia basically almost put his hands about almost a whole foot below where the punch actually landed. It was kind of comical, but just because he was so basic, and he was quite durable, but everything with the technique and everything he was doing, the mouthguard stuff, the sort of pain from the wincing of the body shots, it was just Comedy Central this whole fight. Ultimately, though, he took quite a bit of punishment in the 3rd round and then into the 4th. He started also in the 3rd and 4th round, besides falling in a lot, started to, a couple of times where he sort of hit the canvas without really actually anything happening. Ultimately, with everything going in the fight, the referee, after another one of these instances where he was leaning on Larduet, who's just sort of stepped back, and Marin Garcia fell to the canvas, the referee was like, nah, I've had enough of this madness. The fight is off. So 4th round stoppage in this one, pretty soft ending to a strange fight that had quite a few moments of hilarity. But I guess the question you ask when you step back from this is, Jose Larduet, what are they doing with him? It's a huge question. This was an 8-rounder against a guy that was just barely inside the world's top 300. It kind of, it's not really good enough, is it? You had Mourad Aliev, the French heavyweight, former Olympian. He was in against Dilan Prasovic, and you might remember that name from fighting Isaac Chamberlain and also Lawrence Okoli down at cruiserweight, where he got stopped by those two inside, I think, 1 round for Chamberlain, 3 rounds for Okoli, and it was also 3 rounds here for Mourad Aliev. Aliev, not a big puncher, but he's pretty accurate. He throws some good shots, and Prasovic in the 1st round was basically on his bike trying to stay out of the way. But as the fight wore on, he didn't really throw a lot of shots, didn't look like he really wanted to be there, wasn't never really in the fight. And as soon as Aliev started to land a couple of big right hooks, Prasovic felt the power, and actually round 2, he was dropped by a right hook. He was down twice more in round 3. It was actually a nice little sort of left hand and right hook combo that dropped him for the 2nd one. The 3rd knockdown was nothing. It was kind of like Aliev was on Prasovic, and he just kind of went down. It was pretty soft. He didn't want to get up from that, and he didn't complain when the referee waved it off. So hard to take too much from this fight because Prasovic wasn't really a willing participant, or at least he didn't seem to want to be there. Only really threw a few looping shots at various points. Basically was very negative and on his bike. And Aliev, for the punches he landed, he was pretty accurate, did his job, and ultimately got him out of there. So he moves to 11-0 with 8 knockouts. So what's really happening with Aliev? Also, Larduet, it's certainly a question. And to round up this results roundup video, so the third heavyweight fight on the Universum card, which was the main event, you had Hussein Muhamed versus Ali Kaiden. And this, out of all the 3 heavyweight fights, plus the Huey Fury fight, had the most back and forth action. But I guess it was, these guys were not too far apart in terms of the matchmaking, but Hussein Muhamed, I think, is fighting at a slightly lower level than Jose Larduet and Mourad Aliev in terms of his ceiling is basically, he's tapped out at the domestic level. We saw that a couple of years ago, got absolutely trounced by Zhan Kosowicki, but Ali Kaiden likes to come to fight, let his hands go, and that meshed well for a pretty back and forth fight where Hussein Muhamed definitely was getting the better of things. So the first round and a half or so, a little bit scrappy, didn't really sort of come to life until the end of round 2, where Hussein Muhamed landed a big right hand, a couple of right hands actually, and then it was a left hook that came in, and it sort of looked like on the replay, because I went back and watched it a number of times, that it seemed more Ali Kaiden went down due to he was off balance and the shot kind of took him down. But anyway, it was a knockdown, legit knockdown. In round 3, very seesaw. And there was a moment towards the end of it because you had Hussein Muhamed absolutely letting his hands go, letting everything from the tank go, and Kaiden just eating shots for fun. Like tic-tacs. You had, I thought a stoppage was about to come, but then all of a sudden towards the end of that round 3, Hussein Muhamed sort of staggers towards the other side of the ring, and I was like, oh, I kind of missed that shot. And then you have Ali Kaiden on him, and Kaiden took something from that, because round 4, he was the one in control and trying to really put it on Hussein Muhamed, but that success was short-lived. Muhamed getting a second win, because I went actually back after the fight and looked at the end of round 3, and it looked more that he was just off balance. His legs got tangled with Kaiden and he sort of stumbled off, and Kaiden took it to be that he connected with something, but it didn't look like really anything of note had landed. So that was obviously a confidence builder, and Kaiden tried to build on it as Hussein tried to get a second win, which he ultimately did. Couple of times towards the end of the fight, especially in round 7, where he looked like he would again almost stop Ali Kaiden. Round 3 put it on him, round 7 put it on him again, didn't get him out of there, but what would happen periodically is Ali Kaiden would be landing some big left hooks. Hussein Muhamed, hands down, couldn't stay out of the way of the left hook. Wasn't a lot of defense from both guys in this fight. Ali Kaiden's guard, had the earmuffs on, completely ineffective. Hussein Muhamed punching through it all night long. Right hands and the uppercut also coming in very effective. So you had a case of a very fun-filled fight, but ultimately Hussein Muhamed, a deserving winner, getting the better of the action. And definitely if you want to watch, I wouldn't quite call it a seesaw fight, but there was mostly seeing a little bit of soaring from Ali Kaiden. But it was fun because Kaiden was game and he kept coming and coming and coming, trying to land his shots, just couldn't have enough success. But we've seen before Ali Kaiden, he's been stopped by the likes of Jose Larduet, also Hughie. Hussein Muhamed just doesn't quite have the pop. He's reached his level. I think German domestic level, nothing wrong with that. That really is his lot. Kaiden is fun and his game, but ultimately he's pretty rudimentary as well. But he's got a lot of heart, and he showed it again in this fight. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.